They say that a painter's house is never painted. Well, in that case, a fabricator's truck is never fabricated. Yeah, I got some work to do on the burb. It has a massive weak link in it that I've known about and been worried about since I built it. And today I'm replacing it. So strap in, get ready to see some ugliness underneath the burb, and let's go replace this doubler plate. Now, I gotta warn you, what you're about to see is not pretty. So, viewers, beware. Inherent in the unfortunate design of my system is this yellow tie-down strap. And what that does, we got a light going here, what that does is it stops my transfer case from moving. Because what you're not seeing up there, right in the center of the picture. I'm gonna try and focus on that for you. Oh geez, that's that interface right there. We have too many moving pieces. So in a nutshell, going from the Tremec, we have to go through a Dodge 203 input, which is found in this doubler. This is the front of a 203. And it acts as a reduction box in front of my 205. Not that I'd ever need it, but it's what I need to do to connect the Tremec into a four-wheel drive application. So, I have a Northwest Fab doubler kit in here. You can see that, that's that right there. This whole unit, this is aluminum and bolts to the plate on there, and then there's another plate inside the 205. This plate's too, and then they're all supposed to be interlocking and connected, but it's not, and it has a lot of movement in it, and it's hideously dangerous. So I'm gonna fix it today. I'm gonna replacing the Northwest Fab doubler with a Off-Road Design one piece. Not good. The doubler and the 205 are now separate, and I've got the new ORD doubler kit in place, and let's show you what. So there is piece number one of the old kit. That's the Northwest Fab doubler, along with all this stuff. So that is inherently the problem that I had with this design, was there was too many pieces in the mix. That's the output. There's this guy right here. So this was how the doubler went together. That's the 203 range box right there. That goes between the transmission and the transfer case. So that's what everything's gonna bolt into the back of that guy. But this plate right here bolts into the back of the case I just showed you. And then this keys into this somehow, and then this keys into this somehow, and all of these pieces end up moving and rattling and coming loose. At least they did in my case. So yeah, it's been a project. But here is the new system. So here is the plate, and you'll see that all of those pieces are right here. It's all one big block of milled aluminum. And this is the intermediate shaft. This is the other improvement. All of the torque goes through this intermediate shaft between the transmission and the transfer case. So no matter what reduction system you're running, this shaft is going to be carrying the load. It connects the transmission to the drive shafts. Anything behind here in terms of reduction and gearing that happens in the transfer case doesn't affect this. So this is basically the weak link in any design. So that's why it's massively built. This is a huge piece of steel. And I'll have to put the details down below, but this guy takes it one step further. It's slightly larger, it's heat treated, it is just a burly piece of kit. And that, along with the intermediate, along with this plate design, are gonna dramatically cut down on all the slop I've had in my drivetrain. So, it's time to start throwing this thing back together. What I thought was going to be one of the biggest challenges, drilling out my 205 to accept the figure 8 pattern that came on the doubler I ordered, I thought that was going to be challenging. And while it wasn't easy, it went remarkably smoothly. This is what keys up to the 205. So this pattern that I drilled on the 205 over here, this 8-bolt pattern is now what bolts up to the back of the doubler through this ORD adapter. I'm going to open up the holes a little bit just because it's a very precise fit, and this thing's going to be heavy underneath the truck. This is already going to be in the truck when the 205 goes up there. So I'm just going to chamfer the edges with this countersink to make locating the holes just a little bit easier. Just a light touch. But I'll show you what it looks like when we come back. But right now you can see the holes are all flush. They're gonna have a nice countersink here in a few. And there we are. You can see I'm just knocking down that leading edge so the studs have a little bit easier time finding their way. I didn't do anything with these guys just because it's close to the edge, and I just didn't want to compromise any sealing. So here's the adapter, one step closer. I've had success, you guys. I pulled, what did I do first? Well, I pulled the doubler and the 205 out. Ignore my cross member. I didn't get to that, but it's in, it's secure, and it's not going anywhere. So leave me alone. I know it looks ugly. There's the Tremec, there is the 203 behind it, and then sandwiched in between that and the 205, you'll see that new billet aluminum plate. The only thing I didn't get to is that yoke seal on the back of the pinion here, of the pumpkin. But there's the hardware I did replace on the sway bar. And yeah, fired up, ready to get out on this trip. Full Size Invasion. Jared Jones from Full Size Invasion. Oh, which, by the way, that's his truck back there. So if you're wondering what's going on in the shop, this is his truck that he brought in to do a fuel pump, and then chaos ensued. And we haven't touched the fuel pump yet, but probably tackle this next week, I think. But anyway, he organizes Full Size Invasion, and we're doing like an overlanding full-size invasion. I mean, I'm taking the burb. That's kind of what we're doing. Gonna try and find as much dirt road as we can between here, Santa Barbara, and like Paso. So basically the central coast of California. I know some gems in this area that we're hoping to hit tomorrow. And Jared knows this area too, so he's got some ideas. I not only wanted the burb to be a cool family hauler and long-distance road mauler and tow rig, but I also wanted it to be able to go off-road and hold its own. So that is why one-ton axles with lockers front and rear, an E-locker up front, a Detroit in the rear, heavy-duty transfer case, 38s, great suspension, and hydraulic assist steering. Yeah, and both axles are pretty built too. So yeah, this thing does great off-road. I've never really taken it because I usually just take the Blazer, but hoping to see what it does this weekend. Maybe a little bit more dune action this time, although this guy's so heavy. Yeah, we'll see. I like to dive under the truck, you know, when I get back from a trip or I'm about to head out on a trip, and just take a look at stuff. This isn't a thorough examination. This is just an opportunity to see if there's anything glaring, something that is noticeably wrong. So here, I'm back from the trip, and you can see we found some mud and lots of water. We had a lot of
creek crossings, and so we'd hit a lot of mud, but then it would just get blasted off by the creeks, which was great. But here you go, first problem. One of the, excuse me, one of the front drive shaft bolts is coming out. Yeah, looking good here. So this is what I do. Just enjoy it as I look around under the truck, trying to figure out if anything is abnormal, any leaks, seeing if everything held up to, man, probably a couple 100 miles of freeway, highway, and probably about 50 miles of dirt. So I'm glad to report the truck did great. It feels quite a bit more solid. That's my biggest takeaway is I think because, you know, my hand's on the shifter all the time, you kind of get a feel for the truck through the steering wheel, the shifter, and the brake and gas. And so feeling that disconnect in the shifter, feeling that slop or that looseness just made me feel the whole truck was unbalanced. So you can see the new ORD plate right there. That's one piece of burly plate, and it is sealed. It is solid. Nothing came loose. Nothing leaked. Nothing rattled. Score. Yeah, so really, really happy with the Burb and how it did this past weekend. Had a blast with my youngest son, cruising around and exploring. And yeah, everything looks good. I didn't really find anything apart from that front drive shaft bolt that concerned me. I do have a short in my fan power, so I need to trace that short. But fortunately, the Burb really doesn't need the fan just driving around town. It manages to stay at operating temperature without the fan even running. I've got an airbag leak or airline leak somewhere in the system. And I think that was it. Yeah, everything did great. I love this truck, man. This is making it like a do everything, go anywhere, overlandy type survival vehicle, I guess, is rad. I love it. I'm going to be doing some work here on this cross member. The design itself is not terrible, it's just not finished. It needs more hardware up into the frame. It needs to be cut and shaped for where the doubler plate sits. But it does the job. It holds everything where it needs to be. And it just needs some polishing. So once again, here's another look at everything we just put in. Never mind that one bolt on the doubler plate. That one is just too long. I need to cut that down and reinstall it. Oh, yeah. That is not working. The shifters are not working. So I am going to need to resolve this. I just don't think cable shifters have the push or the pull. There's too much flex in the lines to really operate a 205, especially when you've got it twin sticked. So you've got an alternate shifter for both the front and the rear drive shaft. I just don't think it can handle it. Throw in a doubler and yeah, you've now got 3 cables in really tight spaces. And you can see I made a bracket for it. I extended the mounts down. I really, really tried, and it still just doesn't work very well.
Well, I have to say that wasn't particularly enjoyable to do, but I am so glad that it's done. The truck feels so much more stable and steady. I don't have the impending doom feeling that it's going to grenade itself in the middle of nowhere. And quite honestly, it's stronger and just more bulletproof. So check, check, check. That was a score. Really glad I did it before this trip. It was a time crunch. We barely got it done in time to take it on the trip, but we did. And we had a remarkable trip out there exploring beautiful Central Coast of California with some cool people. So yeah, I hope this motivates you guys. If you have a project that sucks, as we all do, roll up your sleeves and just head first into it, and you will persevere and push through. And it's sunshine and kittens on the other side every time, I promise. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. Let me know what your challenges are down in the comments below, or your least favorite project. And I'm going to link a video up here of when I installed this transfer case and doubler box, so you guys can understand my logic behind that. I'm done. I'm trying to shoot a video over here. Sorry, he's been really loud.